Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the RW podcast. I am the host, Austin, and with me today, I have a special guest, Hopeful Remnant. Now, Hopeful Remnant is a fellow YouTuber that produces content on cartridges, fishing, and Bible discussions. Is that correct, right?
Yes, I talk a little bit about the Bible. Occasionally I get into politics, but mainly I like to talk about fun stuff like rifle cartridge, fishing lures, hiking, things like that.
Awesome. Okay. So one video that really caught my eye on your channel was you basically narrowed down a cartridge. Well, you narrowed down a do-it-all cartridge for North America, basically from small game like coyote up to elk, and you picked one cartridge for it. And which cartridge did you pick?
The 7mm 08.
Okay, it's a great cartridge. Now, we've been talking about this for a while, and what we really want to focus on for this first episode is a discussion / debate on Magnums versus non-Magnums, and whether a Magnum is really necessary for North American game, specifically lower 48. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a argument. Each of us is going to give an argument, and then we'll give each other a chance to make our argument, and then we can have a counter or a rebuttal. So with you being the guest, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Hopeful Remnant. You have 5 minutes. Convince me not to use a Magnum.
Well, I'm not going to go that far because I do like Weatherbys and I do like Magnums, but I find a lot more intrigue in efficient cartridges. Okay. So let me start out by talking about the design philosophy. Take two people like Roy Weatherby and P.O. Ackley. Weatherby is all about making things go faster, the master of velocity, let's say. Ackley, I would call him the master of efficiency. To me, it's more ingenious to make something more efficient, take an existing cartridge and make it better than just to add more powder. And I'm simplifying what Weatherby did, but it's easier to me just to keep adding more powder again and again until it just keeps going faster. So I'm going to give you an example. 300 Weatherby versus a 308. Now, I'm not saying that you're out in the Rocky Mountains and you're shooting elk and the 308 would be the way to go, especially if it was at long range. But the 308 is a pretty efficient round, so I'm going to kind of give it some props and talk about it. So with a 26-inch barrel from a 300 Weatherby and a 22-inch barrel from a 308, if you look at the books, the Nosler book I was just looking at, excuse me, the Weatherby case has 92.2 grains of water capacity versus 49.5 grains in the 308. That's 45% more powder potential. And at 150 grain Accubon out of both cartridges, the Weatherby is probably going to be around 3,400 feet per second. 308 probably around 2,900. And that's 15% more velocity. So to get that 15% more velocity, you're using 45% more powder. Now, with those velocities, you're going to have an energy coming out of the Weatherby probably around 3,800 foot-pounds, which is awesome. And the 308 has 2,750 on the foot-pounds of energy, which is 27% more energy, but that equals 27% more recoil. So there's always a give and take. So 45% more powder to get 15% more velocity, 27% more energy, but you're getting 27% more recoil. So that shows you that the 308 is a lot more efficient cartridge. Now, with that powder comes it's more expensive, right? You got to keep buying powder, takes more powder per cartridge. And a side note with the 308, it's more available, it's more common. And then usually kind of an indirect thing that comes from being efficient, it usually has a shorter barrel because it doesn't have as much powder to burn. So generally speaking, a 22-inch barrel in a short action is going to be probably 4.5 inches shorter than a normal Weatherby 300. Weatherby out of, like, let's say a Mark V or something. and probably three quarters of a pound lighter. And if you're looking for a muzzle brake or a suppressor on a 300 Weatherby, you're going to have a long stick out there. So more packable, and then the barrel life. So also talking about efficiency is barrel life. Excuse me. Let's just say 1,500 to 2,000 shots out of a Weatherby before it starts to lose its accuracy. Some people say it's around 5,000 on a 308. Some people say they've got up to 10,000 rounds and it's never lost its accuracy. But let's just say between 5,000 and 10,000 rounds. And then, of course, going back to the recoil. Now, if you're out in the field and you see an elk in your sights, recoil doesn't mean anything. But if you miss that first shot and you're trying to get that, sight picture back there, get back on target, might be a little bit easier with the recoil. But the big thing about a recoil is at the range. So it's just that punishment that's on your shoulder. So just to summarize, efficiency makes the 308 more packable, more wieldy, better for a suppressor, cheaper to shoot, funner to shoot because of being less recoil. It's going to last you longer because of the barrel life. And once again, that efficiency, 15% more velocity, but 45% more powder. So seems like quite a bit there. So that's what I have to say, Austin. What do you have to say?
Thank you. Okay, let me make my argument. First off, I just want to tell a fun little elk hunting story that's happened out west with a good friend of mine. He drew out on a very good limited elk tag, okay? And it was pretty darn good that he actually got a guide to go with him. It's probably a once in a lifetime elk hunt for him.
Nice.
Okay. For whatever reason, he chose to take a 308 Winchester. I love the 308 Winchester, but it is not my first choice for an elk cartridge. And it came down to, he saw his dream elk, it was a big bull. I wouldn't say it was like the best in the state, but it definitely a nice big bull. It was at 350 yards, maybe 400. And I think a combination with his ability to shoot that far and his unsureness on whether the 308 could deliver the energy to kill at that far. He didn't take the shot and he missed out on in his dream hunt. I think he made the right decision. I mean, if you're unsure, for the animal's sake, don't take the shot, right? Would you agree?
Right.
Okay.
I do agree.
Okay. On average, a 308 Winchester in factory ammo is going at 350 yards to 400 yards. You're going to see around 1,400 foot-pounds of energy that far out. Now, a lot of experts, not just me saying this, they recommend 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. So he probably made the right decision. Now let's go with a Magnum, specifically the 300 Weatherby Magnum in factory ammo. Now I don't mean to disprove you, but your velocity and energy with that 300 Weatherby was way down. Okay,
that's what the book did.
Well, the books are always wrong. Just kidding. This is with factory ammo. You can shoot a 200 grain AccuBall at 3,075 feet per second, and at 400 yards, your muzzle and your energy at 400 is 2,600 and around 2,650 foot-pounds. That's better than most factory ammo you can get in a 308 Winchester at the muzzle. So at 400 yards, my rifle is going to have more energy than a 308 ever could have. Okay. And my next thing, Magnums are your do-it-all cartridge. Basically from small game, just like you were saying with coyote, all the way up to even the dangerous game that you see in Alaska, or grizzly bear, brown bear, whatever bear you might be worried about. You don't have to worry about being undergunned with a Magnum, okay? Next thing, recoil. Be a man and deal with the frickin' recoil is what I say, okay? Practice with it, you will be fine. And if you can't handle it, or if your wife wants to shoot the rifle, or a son or a daughter wants to shoot it, get a muzzle brake. There you go. There's your recoil fixer, okay? A lot of people argue that, say, a 300 Weatherby Magnum just might be a little too much for a deer or antelope sized game. The point is to harvest the animal, okay, not wound it. With that being said, I think a good middle ground, if you're going to use a Magnum on a small game animal, use a monolithic bullet. So the bullet doesn't blow up on impact inside the animal, destroying a lot of its meat. So it's going to do a pass through, basically. And that is why you get a Magnum.
Well, I don't disagree with most of what you said. So if I personally was going out elk hunting and I thought my shots are going to be potentially past 300 yards, say the Rocky Mountains or something, I'm not going to take a 3-way, okay? So I've got some stuff written down here. Now, once again, going on the book numbers. So they're always light. And when you hand load, you can always get more out of it. I would go with the middle ground. I would go with a 300 WSM. So I'm just going to throw this out there. That's kind of a combo here. And I know this is about efficiency versus Magnum, but that's a Magnum that has efficient touches to it. So at 300 yards, starting at 2,900, like I said, you've got a velocity of 2,300 with a 308 and energy of 1,770. That's actually, I think I wrote that down wrong. It was just over 1,600 at 300 yards. No, I'm not sure. But anyway, it had plenty of energy.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it had plenty of energy out to 300 yards, and it dropped about 11 inches. The 300 Weatherby, starting at that 3,400, had 2,760 on the velocity, 2,500 on the energy, and dropped to 6. Obviously better for that distance. There is no question. The WSM, starting at about 3,250 with the same bullet, at 300 yards, it's going to have about 2,600 velocity and then 2,284 on the energy and a drop of 7. So very close. It's nipping on the heels of the Weatherby. Yet it has 75.1 grains of case capacity and has 5% less recoil. So once again, I think the efficiency can always come into play. I wouldn't take a 3-away and shoot an elk at 400 yards. Can it be done? Has it been done? I'm sure it has.
Oh,
I think your friend made the right call. A more efficient, 308, in my opinion, is the 7mm 08. A more efficient 30 caliber overall is the 30-06. So, for a particular application, yes, the Weatherby was definitely better for that. Now here in Missouri, we don't have elk, we don't have mountains. So, it would be kind of crazy for me to have a 300 Weatherby for all of my shooting. And it's not that I can't take the recoil, but why do I want to have the recoil if I don't need to? So I just prefer the more efficient cartridges. However, there's always going to be a point where I'm going to say, okay, that would be silly to take a 308 and shoot an elk at 400 yards. And the 300 Weatherby definitely is more capable for that application. So kind of agree with you there, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, here's my counter argument for what you've mentioned. You pay to play. It's a great argument, isn't it? It's just kind of how the physics are with the powder. You're not going to get a lot of efficiency if you want to be the fastest cartridge. No, the 300 Weatherby is not the fastest cartridge. But I feel like the 300 Weatherby you're getting as much velocity as you can for how much powder. Once you get past the 300 Weatherby case up to the 300 RUM or the 3378 Weatherby, at least in the 30 caliber range, efficiency goes way down. Would you agree?
I do agree.
Okay.
Diminishing returns.
Yes, very much so. I think the 300 WSM is a great cartridge. I have not had a great experience with it, mostly because it's chamber. The rifle that I've shot it in and reloaded for was in a Remington 700, and the thing hates to get put into the chamber. It's just a pain in the butt to put in. And the velocities were 50 to 100 feet per second slower than what the book was saying. And the book was not that fast. So I developed a load for my brother, 180 grain bullet. And the one that shot the best, which was almost half-inch groups, was going about 2850. That's only about 50 feet per second faster than a 30-06. So, but you have a point on the barrel length. I'm not into the hype of like short barrels. So I want the velocity, and if it takes a mile long barrel, I don't care.
I just think it's more interesting to make something more efficient, get the biggest bang out of the buck with it, get more out of it, you know. But there's a time and a place for a Magnum too, you know. If it depends on whether I'm going to have food in my, you know,
Yes.
on my table for the winter, then, you know, I'm probably going to get something with a little bit more power. I really like the efficient cartridges. They're just more interesting to me than just adding more and more powder.
And I'm just kind of the opposite, where I've shot a very nice 308. I've shot a very, very nice 6.5 Creedmoor. They bored me. They were boring. I don't know if you've heard this phrase before. They were boringly accurate. They were so good, they were boring.
I don't quite get it.
Compliment.
Yeah.
That's a compliment to them, because
Yeah.
it's harder to get a Magnum to shoot as well, because naturally the recoil. But I've enjoyed shooting. My favorite gun to shoot is the Weatherby. More people come up to me at the range and say, "What on earth are you shooting?" Because of the muzzle blast and the size of the cartridge. And I don't know, for me, it's more fun. However,
there's a time and a place for practicality, and there's a time and a place for just the cool factor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all these Magnums and the Weatherbys and Ostlers are all really cool. I kind of get bored on the opposite side. You get bored with them, just, you know, it's the same old thing. It's boring to you with the 6.5 Creedmoor 308. I kind of get bored with just the bigger. more power. Having said that, if I was, you know, doing some serious hunting outside of Missouri, I probably would go with something bigger. But I just love these efficient cartridges. Very practical.
yes, I agree. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Both of us love Magnums. Both of us love efficient cartridges. I love shooting the 308 that, you know, it's shooting well under half-inch groups. And it's just so fun because it's reliable. Guys, let us know in the comment section, is this something you want to see? Did you enjoy the video? Let us know what your thoughts are on Magnum versus non-Magnums. Is the Magnum really needed? But thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.